Hey guys, welcome back to my channel, and today I'm going to be doing another Scientology from a Scientologist perspective. This may be a long one, so buckle in for a wild ride. Hey guys, welcome back to my channel, and today's Scientology from a Scientologist perspective is going to be a little crazy and convoluted and long, and it covers so many different articles, but it's all the same topic that I don't know, it's going to be crazy. Alright, so we're going to be covering one court case, but it's a court case that comes from let's see here, 1, 2, 3, 4, it's like 5 different articles, okay? But this is the case of Hannah Islam, Riza Islam, a couple of the other Islam kids. It involves 2 principals, a football coach, some ghostwriters, and 2 front companies for Scientology. Okay? Yeah, that's a lot of stuff. So, the first article I'm going to start with is Scientologist arrested in LA court. Narconon fraud defendants in wild scene. So, this was first written by Tony Ortega on October the 1st of 2019. Now, this is kind of the scenario. It is Medicaid fraud, okay? To put it bluntly, it's Medicaid fraud. Scientology has defrauded Medicaid. Now, this story, it was constantly getting updated. I noticed my Twitter feed was blowing up because they kept adding to this same blog. It was constantly getting updated this one day. It was just blowing up that day. And now we're kind of stepped away from it for a few weeks now. And I'm going to cover it today. This is going to be a long one, so just kind of stick with me, guys. So, there's been a lot of delays with this. And this is going to cover a topic that I'm very passionate about and very angry with, okay? Actually, it's 2 topics that I'm very passionate about and very angry about. Medicaid fraud for one reason. People who defraud Medicaid cause issues for people that actually need Medicaid, okay? My daughter was on Medicaid when she was alive. She was severely disabled. But because people defraud Medicaid, it makes people that actually need Medicaid and actually need services through Medicaid, it makes it 400 times harder for those people to get services. And I had to fight with Medicaid tooth and nail for basic needs for my daughter, and it was because of people like this that it makes it so much harder for people that actually need Medicaid and actually need services for them to get the services they need. Another topic in here that makes me very angry are sovereign citizens. Look, if you do not want to be a part of the United States and you do not want to be a United States citizen, get out. If you want to pull this whole crap about I'm not driving, I'm traveling, I don't have to give you my license, I do not have to follow your laws, I do not have to identify myself. If you get out. Get out of this country, go. And that is a lot of what's going on with the court case, okay? So let's get into it. Hannah, I don't know how you really say her name, but Hannah Islam is a Scientologist. She has been accused of defrauding Medi-Cal program for millions through the Narconon Scientology program. Riza Islam is her son. There's also a couple of her other kids that they get mentioned briefly in other parts of this. But Rizzy and Hannah are the big players about the reason why this case has been getting dragged out. This case actually is from like 2012 or so. It's being dragged out for so long because they have been delaying the case through this sovereign citizen bullshit, okay? They started with stating that they are not the people that should be facing the prosecution. They've pulled some wild scenes in the courtroom. And Underground Bunker actually had a correspondent by the name of Jeffrey Augustine there at this hearing. So that's how they kept getting these updates so rapidly. And it kept just blowing up my Twitter feed. So they got to the courtroom. Deputies rushed in to arrest both Hannah and Rizzy at the courtroom because of all of the delays and stuff that they have been posing. They're getting charged with contempt of court for all of these just crazy things that they have been doing. Hannah pulled her sovereign citizen argument, refused to identify herself. She only stated that she was an authorized representative of the defendant. The judge in charge of the case, his name is Judge Pastor, ordered her to stop talking unless she was the named defendant. However, she kept talking. She was being very argumentative. She was trying to talk over the judge, and he ordered her to be arrested right there on the spot. But even before all of this, when court was supposed to start, the attorneys were all in place for all of the defendants, but the defendants weren't there. So the attorneys are like crazily trying to call their clients, find out what's going on, why they're being late, and the defendants just kind of show up whenever they want. No distress, just like, oh well, I'm here. I grace you with my presence. They pushed their sovereign citizen agenda again, advising that they were immune from prosecution. They even tried to serve documents themselves, not through their attorneys. The court refused to accept the documents because they said they had to be presented through the attorneys. But one of the documents was later to be revealed that they were trying to fire the judge from the case. I mean, this is the kind of bullshit that they're pulling, right? And so they're just kind of going on. Hannah even was overheard saying that she was not a U.S. citizen and thus could not be prosecuted. Judge Pastor ordered Hannah to be arrested for her argumentative nature. Judge Pastor also ordered a bench warrant for one of the other defendants, a Banyan Beverly Washington, because she just didn't bother to show up at court at all. Court was recessed when it reconvened. Hannah and Rizza both were in cuffs. Both seemed to be calmer, but they still went on with their sovereign citizen arguments. Hannah was wishing to represent herself, but would not sign the paperwork because to sign the paperwork, she had to admit that she was Hannah Islam. So there was that. But her attorney was like, can I resign, please? Because, of course, bullfuckery everywhere. The judge would not allow it because that would also cause another delay. And there's been so many delays in this case as it already stands. All parties entered their not guilty pleas. They were all seated. Handcuffs were removed. Prosecution started their case by calling Sam Richardson, who's the special agent supervisor for California Department of Justice. And his job was to lay out how Medi-Cal works. And Hannah was then again put back in cuffs because she started arguing with the judge. And it kind of just went downhill. So we're going to skip over a couple of things. This kind of skips around a little bit because of the updates. Things kind of got shuffled around. So it kind of is a little bit disjointed. One thing is that it is discovered that Washington's attorney did come out and say that Washington is possibly out of the country right now. That's the reason why she didn't show up to court. I'm going to skip over to another article. This one is called from this article, Hannah and Riza were sentenced to 5 days in jail and a $1,000 fine for their contempt of court for everything that they were pulling inside the court. The judge just was not going to let that go. So they have to spend 5 days in jail and pay a $1,000 fine. They also have talked a little bit about the school principal, the coach. Some of the smaller players in this scheme have already handled their parts in it, have already gotten their sentences, have already paid their fines and stuff, have already done their part of it. What's going on right now in this whole scheme are the bigger players. Hannah Islam, Riza Islam, the other siblings, this Washington person, some of the bigger players. The people that were actually getting the larger amounts. So that's kind of what's going on with this. And now we're going to skip over to Scientologist led away in handcuffs after stunning evidence of fraud heard in court. So here's the deal. These are the major players. Hannah, Riza, Zakiya, Nimot. So that's Hannah's the mom, Riza's the son. He's like 29. He's like the baby. Zakiya's 37 and Nimot is 43. So it's the older daughter, the next oldest, the baby, and the mom. Okay, another defendant is Banya Beverly Washington. So they were all in there together. So here's the situation. They defrauded Medi-Cal insurance program for about $3 million. This was not a small little amount. This was $3 million that they defrauded the Medicaid program in California for. And this is kind of what ended up happening. Let's see here. Alright, so they were using this program called World Literacy Crusade, which is another front company for Scientology. So World Literacy Crusade is attached to Scientology. And then they had Narcanon. So World Literacy Crusade had a group of what we'll call ghostwriters. Then they had Narcanon over here. They had 2 school principals and a coach. These people at the school in Compton had access to what students at the school had Medicaid. And it's rounded out to be about 50 kids, right? So they would send these kids over to Riza and Hannah and them. They would set these kids down for like a 45-minute video or like a little lecture or something about anti-drugs, right? The kids had to do like a little sign-in sheet. Their name. That sign-in sheet would be given to the World Literacy, what is that called? The World Literacy Crusade. So the little ghostwriters in the World Literacy Crusade would get a list of names. The ghostwriters in the World Literacy Crusade would then make up little progress reports on all these like 50 names that they got. Then Hannah and them over here in Narconon would bill Medicaid for all this progress of these kids going through the Narconon program to the tune of $3 million. These kids never actually went through Narconon. They spent like an hour watching an anti-drug campaign video. Then the ghostwriters would write up little fake progress reports just in case they ever got audited by Medicaid. And Hannah and them went fucking billing crazy. So the investigators gave the names of several the AHEC is the, what is this? American Health and Education Clinics. Investigators gave the names of several AHEC ghostwriters whom had been interviewed. Investigator Sam Richardson went into detail about how all the defendants were involved in the fraud. Hannah Islam as the president of AHEC, Zakiya as a counselor and did billing, Riza and Nimmat Islam and co-defendant Banyan Beverly Washington served in various capacities as counselors and signed off on billing documents. AHEC wrote checks to the education officials involved in the conspiracy. Those checks and all other supporting documents were entered as exhibits. World Literacy Crusade staff were also pressured to sign up as Medi-Cal recipients or be fired from their jobs. The state presented evidence, for example, that 2 staffers who had taken no courses were used to bill Medi-Cal $14,500 and $5,000 as if they had been through the drug treatment. So then they even started using their own ghostwriters as going through the Narconon program so that they could keep that billing going. So Riza Islam was shaking his head no during parts of the testimony by investigator Richardson. AHEC excessively billed a particular Medi-Cal code for extensive outpatient treatment for people with substance abuse problems. That brought the operation to the attention of Medi-Cal's fraud investigation unit and ultimately to a raid of the Compton facility. The sovereign citizen argument and the mass attempt by the defendants to fire their attorneys were just delaying tactics, and none of them worked. Augustine, that's the reporter that was on scene, says it didn't stop the staggering weight of evidence from being presented and made public in open court. So that's what they were doing. They used these innocent kids that had really nothing to do with it in a staggering amount of 50 kids. Then they had these other people over here ghostwriting up these freaking progress reports and then threatened them that if they didn't sign up for Medicaid so that they could use them in this scheme, that they would lose their jobs with that world literacy whatever, and were billing Medicaid in their names because all they saw were $, $, $, $, $. That's it. Now we're going to move on to another article. It says Scientologist removed from LA court again for screaming at judge in fraud hearing. Tony Ortega posted this on October 3rd. So we've gone from the 1st, the 2nd to the 3rd. So we're the 3rd day in court. So it says it was another strange day in Los Angeles Superior Court. And we're going to hear about another day here. This is just some more evidence and antics that are going on in this crazy trial. I mean, this is absolute insanity. Really and truly, it's just showing what rate Hannah and RZA are going to go. And really and truly right now you can see it's not RZA that is doing this. It's Hannah. So they've already been convicted of contempt of court, so they're having to stay in the jail. So they show up in their jail blues that say LA County Jail in white across them. But there's been problems. So Hannah refused to come out of her jail cell. She already came in and she was being belligerent and she was complaining loudly when she came into the jail about the way she was being treated. Judge Pastor was told by the sheriff's deputies that she refused to come out of her cell that morning because when she came into the court, she was having to wear this mask on her face, and that was because she had refused to submit to a TB test. She was also refusing to submit to a chest x-ray, and anybody knows, like, I worked for a jail here locally back when I was pregnant with my son, and you're working in these confined, contained places. If you come in with something like tuberculosis or something like that that's highly contagious and highly infectious, it's going to spread like wildfire. So they have to do a test on anybody that's coming in. I was an employee. I had to get a TB test. But they do that to everybody. You're not special. So with her refusing to submit to that, she was already put in isolation. She was complaining about that. She got to complaining about them talking about her private medical stuff in open court. Well, boo-boo, you're not special. Then they were talking about how she refused to exit her cell, so the judge had to order a forced extraction from the cell, so they had to go in and forcibly remove her from her cell. So it was just one more thing after another. Now her son, on the other hand, at this point has been just model person. Once they threw him in handcuffs and slapped him in a cell, he just, all this sovereign citizen stuff, he is being quiet. He is not throwing a fit. He is not nothing. Now Hannah, on the other hand, she wants to be Hot Mess Express over here. Do you boo-boo. But her son is over here going, yes, sir. I'm here, sir. He's not having it. He's ready to get out of that cell and go back to his little fancy house that he stole $3 million for. But they're going over some of the instances for that. She got excluded from court because she refused to keep running her mouth. So she got sent back to the jail, but everybody else was in court. They talked to some of the people that were at the World Literacy Crusade, and now Freddie Johnson, who was in charge of that, so he's also a Scientologist. They talked to a couple of other people. Nothing really like out there or anything. They went through some of the internet archives about Narconon and some things that L. Ron Hubbard stated, like we use the Narconon program developed by L. Ron Hubbard. World Literacy Crusade's website stated on a now defunct page that it is preserved on the Internet Archive. So between September 2010 and June 2013, the county paid Hannah Islam's clinic $3.8 million in reimbursements, which prosecutors now say were applied for fraudulently. Defense attorneys are now stepping up and trying to point the fingers to other people. So, this is the defense tactics now. So, RZA Islam's attorney questioned the lack of Medi-Cal codes on sign-in sheets that listed the names of high school students who were taught by RZA, but the state had already explained how the sign-in sheets were used by the scam ghostwriters to produce lengthy and bogus progress reports for the students, so Medi-Cal could be fraudulently billed. It felt like a fairly inconsequential attack to the state's case. Then the defense for Rizzi's older sister, Nemat Islam, took the line that Nemat was a low-level, inconsequential employee who was never in Suite F with the ghostwriters, was not the signature on the bank accounts, and didn't sign tax returns. So the prosecution rebutted that by saying Nemat had threatened to fire an employee if they didn't apply for Med-Cal, suggesting she too was part of the overall scam. Hannah's attorney focused on her daughter, Zakia, being in charge of billing, and also that Hannah did not teach or counsel any of the high school students, and that she wasn't seen on any of the high school campuses. But the prosecution rebutted that by saying that Hannah didn't go to the campuses because she dealt directly with the corrupt educators, the two principals, and the football coach who supplied the students for the scheme. All in all, it looks like prosecution has this locked down. They were able to rebut every one of the defense's plans, boom, like that. It was like nothing. Like, oh, that's your argument? Well, boom, brick wall. So I really don't see where they're going to have like a comeback for any of that. So Rizza went back to jail at the end of the day to finish out his 5 days of contempt. And that was pretty much the end of the court for that day. So we're going to skip over to ABC 7 in Los Angeles, covers the Scientology Narconon fraud hearing. For that, I'm literally just going to link that down in the description box, because it has a video of them covering that court case, with sketches and everything supplied. So if you want to go and watch that, you can do so. And then it has a link to Augustine's full report of this case. In that article, I clicked on that link, and it leads us over to Scientologist will face trial after judge cites sophisticated fraud scheme. This was posted on August the 8th. So we're going to go through Jeffrey Augustine's full kind of like breakdown of the trial. So this is Jeffrey Augustine's report on what's going on. So at 8 a.m., he said, I'm in the cafeteria at Los Angeles Criminal Courts building downtown. I arrived early to get a coffee and do emails. I see one of the deputies and ask him if Hannah and Rizza were released on Sunday. He tells me no, and that both were transported to court earlier in the morning and are in holding cells. 8:50 a.m., Nemat and Zakia Islam are present in the courtroom. Bayan, Beverly, Washington, and the one defendant who is not a family member, enters the courtroom. A deputy advises her not to leave the courtroom as there is an arrest warrant for her. Washington had failed to appear the previous week for the preliminary hearing as ordered. 9:15 a.m., 6 deputies are in the courtroom. The bailiff orders the courtroom cleared, and Bayan, Beverly, Washington is arrested and taken into custody. 9:20, Hannah and Rizza Islam are brought into the courtroom in handcuffs and in their jail blues. Both are handcuffed by their left wrist to chairs. And 9:25, Judge Michael Pastor enters the court. The court is called into session by the bailiff. Judge Pastor orders Banyan Beverly Washington to be held with no bail because of Washington's failure to appear last week. She cannot participate in the preliminary with her co-defendants as the trial is already underway. The state will conduct a separate preliminary trial for Washington. Judge Pastor notes that Hannah has exercised her right to be present. He demands that she state her name and acknowledge that she is the named defendant. After some minor protestations, Hannah does both. Gone are all pretenses of sovereign citizen defense. She promises to comport herself in court. So I guess over 5 days in jail has finally knocked a sovereign citizen right out of her ass. 9:30, supervising special agent of the California Franchise Tax Board, or the FTB, Robert Owenswell, I just butchered all that name, is called to the witness stand by prosecutor Vincent Bonotto. The FTB guy testifies that AHEC was incorporated as an LLC partnership. In an LLC partnership, the partners divide the income according to an internally agreed upon formula. AHEC LLC tax filings showed the following. In 2010, $293,102, with Hannah taking 90% of the net income. Hannah failed to file a personal tax return and failed to report $263,792 in income. 2011, $525,233, with Hanan taking 90% of the net income. Hanan failed to file a personal income tax return and report $472,710 in income. So not only has this dumb bitch committed Medicaid fraud, she's also committed tax evasion. 2002, $1,047,769, with Hanan taking 50% of the net income. Hanan failed to file a personal income tax return and report $523,880 in income. 2003, no LLC tax filing made. The FTB investigated AHEC bank records and found that LA County paid AHEC $1,398,639 in Medi-Cal payments. Hanan's personal income was computed to be FTB at the previous year's 50% partnership. By that measurement, Hanan did not report $699,319 in income. On the cross-examination by defense, Hanan's attorney asked about statute of limitations on examining tax returns. The statute of limitations is 6 years. The state began investigating in 2014. Therefore, this attempt by the defense to find something is without merit. The state enters into Exhibit 1-19 and 21 through 37 as previously agreed to by all parties. The people rest. The four defense attorneys each make a motion to dismiss the charges against their respective clients. Riz's attorney argues that he merely conducted classes and was not part of any scheme. The tactic here was to argue that Rizla was in no way part of any financial crimes as alleged. All he did was to collect sign-in sheets from students, and these were turned over to the ghostwriters by others. Riz's attorney then suggested that he was merely being loyal to his mother. This good son argument was advanced with the implication that Rizza was the victim of his Machiavellian mother. I personally looked for this to be part of the strategy when Rizza goes to trial. That's actually kind of a good way to go, because if you look at it, in the grand scheme of things, Rizza started the whole sovereign citizen thing right along with his mother. Even getting contempt of court right along with his mother. But I'm going to link the rest of this report. It's got some good measures and some kind of juicy bits in there. But here's the thing when it comes down to it. When all is said and done, the preliminary hearing has been fruitful, and they have found enough evidence to go ahead with a trial. All parties are going to be charged in this case. Hanan and Riza were set with a bond. Hanan was set with a $250,000 bond, Riza with a $100,000 bond. Nimit and Zakia remained released on their own recognizance. Due to Washington failing to show up for court for that first preliminary hearing, she was taken into custody for them to do a separate preliminary hearing on her. But they have moved on. They will have arraignment in 60 days. So we are going to hear more about this case. So look for that probably around December. We're looking at beginning December, maybe even into January 2020 when this goes to actual trial. But when this does go to trial, it does look like everybody's going to shift onto Hanan and be like, it was that bitch's idea. It was her. But I'm going to link all of these articles down in the description box. If you want to pick through and find all the stuff that I skipped over, you can. I just wanted to give you guys a kind of a basic idea of what was going on. This case has been dragging on since 2010 is when this really started, when the con started, and has drug on and on and on. But it does now seem like we are going to get to a trial in 60 days from October the 8th. So here we go. This is another one of these legal battles that Scientology is fighting right now. So, if you like this video, give it a thumbs up. I know it was a little kind of all over the place. And this is a very hard subject to understand. And it has some very weird elements to it. But give this video a like. If you haven't already, go ahead and subscribe. Ring that bell. Also down in the comment section down below, let me know what you think about this. This is another way that Scientology has put the screws to people. Just saying. And in the description box I will have all of these articles linked so that you can go and look at them yourself, dissect them yourself, figure out what you think is interesting. Also, my Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and email will all be linked down there, and you can find me on any of those platforms. If you want me to investigate anything, or if you have anything on these cases that I don't have, and you want to send it to me, you can send it to me on any of those platforms. That'll be awesome. Anyway, guys, that's going to do it for today's video. I know this was a long one, but thanks for sticking it out with me, and I will see you on the next one. Bye for now.